I'm just so glad that we made it here today. This is so good. I mean, imagine how overloaded Zoom must be these days. They went from like 0 to 60 in like 3 months. I can't even imagine. I guess it would be like the equivalent of a couple of minutes
Zoom.
in real time. Yeah, Zoom. Like, can you
Yeah.
imagine being the people at Zoom and you're like, oh, this is nice. And then all of a sudden it's like, we
Mm.
need to up level
Oh, I
now.
love it. It's when I ask new clients if they use Zoom, they all say yes now.
Yes, you don't have to send them the tutorials.
Yeah.
So glad you're here, Donato. I know a lot of people have questions. I'm sorry we weren't able to go live on Facebook, but here, let's do this. I'm going to start off as I do, just giving a quick digital marketing tip. And I've been talking about subject lines. I talked about personalizing subject lines, and I talked about doing some how long they should be. So those were in past. Today I want to talk about emojis, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I do better with that. If I go play here, let's see if that works. There we go. So I want to talk about using emojis in your subject lines. What we're trying to do is get more opens, right? We have to be able to rise above the noise. We don't want to do it super annoying or selly, but I do like to show up in just a way that kind of catches people's eyes. I will sometimes use emojis in my subject lines if it aligns. So when you're testing, we had talked a little bit too in the past about like A/B testing, right? And anything I'm saying, Donato knows all of this. So this is for anybody else who's listening who might not know, but A/B testing lets you write two different subject lines with the same email content, and then you can test it out. You can send some and then send some more, send two different subject lines, and then based on how it's performing, then you send it to the rest of your people. So you might even do that with emojis. You can write two subject lines, one with an emoji and one without. That's something to try now. I remember that
What have you seen from when you've tried it before?
I find that it's a little bit more of an open rate. It just catches people's eyes. I don't do this, what they're showing here with all of those emojis.
Mm,
That's a little bit much, but it makes sense for Yumly, right? They have that kind of that
yeah.
more engaged thing, right? So I do use the eyes. I use the fire sometimes. I use the pointing finger.
Hmm.
I use the stars. I don't use hearts in subject lines, but I do in texts. Right. So just kind of something to catch your eye. I like the personalization one that we've talked about before, that I've talked about before too. So just best practices is don't use the same emoji every time and don't use them in every subject line. Make sure it supports your message. I would change that a little bit. I use the same emoji. I have the sunset emoji that I use at the beginning of every email that I send to my private Rise Together group so that they get trained to know that this isn't just regular whatever. It is specifically for a paid group that they're in, and I want to catch their eye with that. So I think it goes back to thinking about what your brand personality is that you want to convey, and then make sure that that's the kind of email that you're sending out. And also test it out if you can. Not all devices and email programs will render emojis the same. I've noticed that I do take them out, like in Constant Contact, you have that resend option, resend to non-openers.
Hmm.
If there's an emoji in there, take it out because it comes out all gobbledygook for a
Oh,
lot of people in their inbox. Sometimes they show up as a different color, or they might change their shape a bit, or sometimes they don't show it at all. Let's see if I can get this going here. So just start with a little sample of your list, and maybe it's people that you know that you can kind of say, hey, how did that show up? Do a little bit of work with your inner circle. Don't use them all the time. Make sure the emoji supports the message, and knowing that they're going to be different for everybody. So that is my digital marketing tip of the week. And now I get to go to the good part, which is introducing everybody to my friend Donato. Donato and I have been working together. How long have we been working together, Donato? Like
seems like a long, probably pretty
five,
long time.
like 5 years. I think maybe
Yeah,
five
probably around
years.
5 years when we first met. Yep.
Yeah, and you've been doing websites and search optimization for me and for my clients, and super
Hmm.
good. All right, so here is, I lost it. Mm-mm. Here's the official Donato Dandreo bio. Donato Dandreo started, I should say Donato Dandreo the fourth, but he is
Hmm.
not the last in the line of Donato Dandreos. He has a
Hmm.
son, Donato Dandreo the fifth. So
Yep.
cool. But this Donato started building WordPress websites in 2009, hasn't looked back since. Over the years, he has developed hundreds of websites. He has a passion for working with clients to help them understand their goals and to understand their goals himself so he can develop a web strategy customized for their needs. So when I asked Donato what is his superpower, he said it's website design, clearly. But I want to say something else because we've been working for a while. One of the reasons that I work with Donato is he is patient and he takes the time to explain things to either to me or to the client that we're working with. And I will tell you that has not been my experience with everybody. When we started working together years ago, I was getting mansplained a lot about search optimization, sort of like, oh, you wouldn't understand, or, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. And Donato took the time to explain it to me. And he also takes the time to create individual tutorials for the clients that use him for his website. So that's my commercial for Donato. Today we're going to talk about starting points for selling online. So tell me
Hmm.
more about that, Donato.
Yeah, no. So just to say, it's been a pleasure working with you. I think the patience is reciprocal. I think you're very patient with us too, and we do our best job that we can. So it's been a pleasure working with you. I have a steps for building a great e-commerce website presentation. So it's a pretty long one. So I'll just kind of run through the highlights of it,
Okay.
and then we can get into some questions along the way or at the end. So first you start thinking, why bother with this e-commerce? There's a lot of businesses nowadays that are getting into e-commerce that are traditionally a retailer and not really an e-commerce, or the e-commerce side of their business is just more important than ever. But it does help to broaden the market. And one thing that's been nice about expanding into e-commerce is it really makes it so you're not so limited to your geographic area.
Mm.
You can really, especially if you have a unique product, even better. There's one of our clients that sells memory lamps. I didn't even know what that was until recently. But it is a very, very unique product that has a high demand. And so he's able to advertise nationally and produce results selling online, even though he has a retail store. I think he actually does most of his business online. So
Hmm.
that's just a big reason to get into why e-commerce. Recently, it's been because you have to, but in the long run, it's definitely going to open up another source of revenue and expand your capabilities when it comes to marketing and then if you do manage to get some good search engine optimization, you don't have to be so limited with some businesses get good SEO nationally, but their local SEO doesn't really have a big jump. So it's like a lot of those businesses don't get the benefit of the SEO because like they're getting a lot of the traffic from people that aren't ever going to drive to their store. So the e-commerce kind of solves that a bit. The first thing to do going into preparing to build the site is just rethinking your target market. Whereas maybe if it was a physical presence, then convenience and location was the differentiator. But
Mhm.
if you're moving into e-commerce, that's really not gonna that really can't be your differentiator anymore. So you have to start looking at who's the target market, who really loves your products, and how can you set up the website to really showcase and highlight those products the best that you can. Also, there's just doing the different keyword research because maybe locally and even within your store you call a product one thing, but nationally what people are searching for is a little maybe even a different variation of what people are calling it. So when you're optimizing your website for a search engine optimization, you want to use those terms that people are googling and want. And it's also important for the usability because if you bring somebody to your website and you're calling a product something different, they're probably just going to think they're in the wrong place, and they're going to bounce off.
Mm.
Also applies to setting pricing. So definitely doing some research and making sure you're at least in the ballpark if you're not offering some kind of super unique product. You want to at least go and check out Amazon and check out eBay and just make sure that you're not offering almost like a commodity product for a much higher price than anybody can get with free shipping and a lower price. And one of the most overlooked things that I think it's better to get ahead of it, so that you're not kind of scrambling to throw it together at the end, or all the different terms and conditions and policies on the website. Privacy policies probably the easier one, because you can just make it fairly generic and really just say you're doing everything even if you're not sure you are. But the terms and conditions and the return policy can be a little more complicated, and you really need to think through those and make sure they're spot on, because a lot of the time the merchant providers will require that those are detailed and are on the website. I have seen e-commerce sites get delayed because the credit card processor was not allowing them to launch because they did not have those policies in place. So those are just some of the things to prepare before you actually go about building your website, instead of just jumping right in and trying to play around with the pictures because it is a lot of fun with the modern website builders to just get in there and start adding products, and then it's like you get the first 50% of the site done pretty fast and it's fun and you feel like you're ready to sell, but then you realize you have all these things you haven't thought of yet, and then you start rushing them and get through them too fast. So another thing to consider is just the shipping service in general. If you're going to use FedEx, UPS, how's that all going to work to actually go ahead and start fulfilling the products and sell it online, and how can you make it more efficient, and what opportunities are out there? You should price shop shipping a little bit, because you can usually negotiate a little bit better of a rate, so that you're always covered on your shipping costs, so that things are calculated, or at least you're competitive with other places online that have those existing relationships set up. And then when it comes to shipping and credit cards, there's also something we ran into recently where you do need to just check on the different guidelines and rules regarding the products that you're selling and shipping. We just did launched a website recently where they're selling a CBD infused product on the site, and there were a lot of guidelines and special things that we had to do and work with the client to make sure that it was going to be okay for them to sell. So you want to really do a lot of research on all those rules before you're going to be selling any kind of gray area product or anything like that. And then we also have another client that sells perishable items through the website, so that has its own special needs to it that need to be considered. So those are all things just to get out of the way and plan for before you just go in and start, paying to have somebody build a website, or spending your own time building it yourself. Just make sure you're doing it on the right platform, because not all platforms will even support the sale of certain types of products or give you the flexibility to do so.
All right, so
All right.
I have a bunch of questions. So the
Yeah.
first was the last thing you said was make sure you're doing it on the right platforms. And of course, I know that you specialize in WordPress, and you can do e-commerce on WordPress. Is that like a plugin that you use? Is that
Oh, yeah.
WooCommerce or?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about the platforms. So we've built about launched 3, and then we have 2 more or 3 more in the work Shopify websites this year. We've been very happy with Shopify for e-commerce. We find it's great for the front end ease of use and usability. Chances are, if you've bought something online, you've bought it through a Shopify store. So people really like it, and it's not like as DIY as some others, but if you hire the right person, or if you spend enough time on it, you can get it working really well for you. So we do recommend Shopify when the primary purpose of the website is e-commerce. And then we do still build WooCommerce websites. Typically, more so lately, like we'll use WooCommerce only if we need a very high level of customization with the website, or if it's just an add-on to a site. So if you already have a WordPress website and you're just like, I just want to make some of my products available online for sale, and it's maybe it'll eventually overtake the main business, but WooCommerce is a good way to add e-commerce to an existing website for a fairly low investment, and it still works really well. I don't think it really compares to Shopify in terms of the whole back end, even because with Shopify it's like completely integrated with creating shipping labels, and the whole checkout process is well optimized. You get abandoned checkouts emails just right in built in, so people get, hey, you forgot something in your cart. So I think a lot of the client communication and customer communication and the back end in general is much better with Shopify, but we do use WooCommerce for smaller stores that don't have a high volume of sales yet. And then there are many others like Andreas built with Wix. So I
She just
built
did
that
Wix, yeah.
once,
Yeah.
and that seemed to be easy to use. I can imagine if it might be hard to scale into a really large store with Wix potentially. I'm not sure what the limitations are. I just know that it's that's one of the things with Wix is you can it is more so for typically for more simple basic sites, but maybe you could get a huge store on it. But yeah, it's that's those are three of them. I know you said Weebly, and that site came out pretty nice. So there are a bunch of different options. I think it's the most important thing though is just making sure you pick the right platform for your needs and your skill level and who's going to be building it, and then also just all the things that have nothing to do with the platform, getting all that right. Getting the right products on at the right price, and then obviously the marketing is important, because if you build a great store and you don't have a marketing plan and you're not going to be driving to it, you're really setting yourself up to just have an online store that just kind of sits there and
Yeah,
doesn't really
yeah.
get any sales.
Right, right. Exactly. And how is that right? It's a combination of everything. It's the search optimization and the keywords, like you said, and then making sure that you're building the funnels that bring you
Hmm.
in. And then when are you ready to do Facebook ads, Google ads? And I know all of that helps, but you
Hmm.
have to kind of be ready. And that's the hard thing with marketing is some of my clients, when the quarantine hit, they were like, "Up, shut down marketing," and I'm like, "But marketing, right? It's like when you shut down those funnels, then you have to do all that work to keep them going again, so that when you're
Hmm.
ready, you have already people ready to go and buy." And so I would say the same thing with a new store is that it's hard to think about putting money into marketing, I mean, people put a lot of money into their logos and their cards, which how many people are handing out business cards today? Probably not
Hmm.
that many. But to put a lot of thought into their website. And I hear you about that fun to do the pictures thing and the layout thing, but that other technical stuff makes me want to cry. You mentioned privacy policy, which you can pretty much find and copy somebody else's online as far as privacy, and then make sure that you're following through on, I'm not going to send your list to anybody. No one else is going to get your credit card information.
Hmm.
That, tell me more, like where, if I were just setting up a store, asking for a friend, which is me, um, if I were going to set something up and I'm going to be selling a product, where can I, or how do you put together the page or the information on terms and conditions, return policy? Is there like a good template site? Is it different for everybody? I guess it would be
Yeah, it's a
different.
little different. Like we have clients that have an attorney draft it all for them.
Mm.
We did just have to add it to a site urgently. Um, it's just a new client, and we found there was a couple of really good templates from Shopify that have like, it was pretty cool. So it had like a whole template to go by, and then it had it was one of those things. It had actually nice little notes of like, insert this here, or is this
Oh,
relevant? So it was a really good template
that's
for
awesome.
the terms and conditions, and then for the I think for the shipping rules too, and the
Yeah.
returns.
Yeah, it's very different. I mean, most of the people that I work with are service based, but
Hmm.
recently starting to work with more people that have products or a little bit of both. Um, like Andrea, I know has gorgeous jewelry that she's selling, and she's put together a Wix. And what I like about her Wix is that you can subscribe to the Wix app, and so when she makes updates it's a membership and a website, I can get a notification on my phone. Same thing with a Weebly site that I just set up. And I use Kajabi for my newest website as well. So it's nice to be able to have that other option.
Hmm.
Even though I do digital marketing, I'm finding ways for myself and for my clients to stay plugged in to information that you need to have, but also
Hmm.
to stay a little bit away from Facebook. A lot of us really rely a lot on Facebook, and it's a big time suck sometimes and easy to get lost
Hmm.
down those rabbit holes. And so we're trying to find different ways to get people informed without that time suck.
Yeah, that's a good thing you said is for people selling learning management or online courses or digital products, like maybe a service provider might end up making. There's it seems like WooCommerce would still be the better when we were talking about platforms before. So
Okay.
just something that just wanted to mention.
There's so much to it. And I know that a lot of people try to do the things on their own, and then there's that learning curve. So I highly recommend having somebody take you through the process, because the things you don't even think about, they can do in a snap. And it's the same thing with what I do with email marketing, right? There's
Hmm.
people that are spending, a half a day or more trying to set up their constant contact or their active campaign. And it takes me an hour, right? Like, this is what I do all day. This is what you do all day. And I know that you
Hmm.
have a team that helps you with all the individual aspects of the work that you do with the search optimization and building the platforms and Google ads. So it's
Hmm.
helpful when you have the people who that's what they do all day.
Hmm.
This was awesome. I'm so glad that you came here today. So, two questions before I ask you, where can people find out more about you? If
Hmm.
you were to give one piece of advice for somebody who's just getting started out, what would it, and wants to put together products on a website, what would be the thing that you would say before they call you or they call me to help manage with you? I see myself as the website. I have to tell you guys, what I say sometimes is I'm like the website design whisperer. So Donato and I just worked on a site with a client a little bit older, and man, he was so smart. But honestly, he wasn't brought up with this, and it wasn't his thing. And so it was an honor to make this website for this amazing artist, and to be the go-between where Donato could tell me, well, the search optimization, da, 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 and then I could go translate that into human speak for our client. And I think that they both appreciated that part of it all.
Hmm.
Okay, so where can people find out more about you? What will they find out if they sign up for your list or get on a call with you?
Yeah, yeah. So they always offer like a free initial consultation to review whatever is existing and make some recommendations and talk a little bit about how we could help maybe make it better. And then also, if they have an existing website that doesn't do e-commerce, then we can expand on that. Or if they added e-commerce to their site and they're just not happy with it and it's broken and things aren't working, we could probably fix
Mm,
it. So those are a couple things. And then before they go to a web designer or anybody, I guess the things they would do, um, some pre-web design tasks like going and doing some competitor research and research on websites that they like and they think are doing well are always a good start. And that those are good notes to have in an initial meeting. And then just any goals are great to bring. And then if they're really, really just starting out, um, just looking up a bit like, and if even if you're not and you're just starting, you've been in business but you're just starting out with e-commerce, I think look up a business plan template and trim it down, and there are some out there that are called like one page business plans, and
mm.
just put together a business plan for your online store and put that together, and then at least you have a start for how you're gonna what your rough, you don't have, even if you don't want to come up with a strategy yourself, at least you have some direction and an idea of how you're going to like really make a business out of what you're trying to do.
That was super helpful. Thank you. I'm going to actually download that today for a personal
Yeah.
project. Great
Hmm.
stuff. All right, so you guys start competing .com is Donato's website. He has all the bells and whistles on there. You can chat with, you can do the little chat box there. You can
All the
schedule a
toys, yeah.
call with him, go onto his blog. Oh, get on his email list. He's got some great content that he sends out, super helpful all of the time. If you have any questions, you can contact me and I can tell you what I know, or contact Donato directly.
All right. Thanks for having
Awesome.
me. It was fun.
Thanks for
And
being here. I
I'll
appreciate
email
it.
you separately. I want to have you on what I haven't done a webinar for a while, but I don't want to do to be on one. So,
I will talk anywhere
but
to anybody. It's my thing. Email marketing is my thing. Thank you,
all
Donato.
right.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. I'll talk to
You
you
too.
soon. All
All
righty.
right. Bye.
Bye.